Hey everyone, welcome to the Power Driven Podcast. Today we have an exciting topic. We're going to talk about what got us into diesel performance and diesels in general. What was like our first diesel vehicle, our first experience with it, and like what drives us to keep messing with diesel trucks? What is it about them?
I was a dirt biker growing up. I was into dirt bikes and the family that I grew up in was into trail riding and slow four-stroke motorcycles like XR 200, XR, just very slow bikes. And so I was a power junkie in a family that cared nothing about power. And so I eventually got older, and then I got into bullet bikes. My buddy had a CBR 900, and that was really cool to pull wheelies at 80 miles an hour. I thought that was pretty fun. And so I really wanted to get a bullet bike. And so then I got a Suzuki Hayabusa, which is the fastest bullet bike of the time. I know the Kawasaki has a supercharged one now, but at that time, it was the Guinness Book of World Records.
I didn't know they had a supercharged one. So you're apparently still into bullet bikes a little bit.
So I got a Busa, and I was into it. And that was fun, and I enjoyed that. And as I got a little bit older, and I needed a truck, and of course I'm a power junkie, and I had some friends. One works here, Griff's family, Griff Jensen. They were way into diesel trucks. And so at this point in time, diesel trucks started to become like, when I was a kid in high school, everybody made fun of diesel trucks because they're the 6.5 diesel or the IDI 7.3s or 6.9s. It's really slow turds. I mean, they're awful. And so, I mean, the Chevy 350 trucks were, nothing compared to what we have now, but that was like the better trucks. And so anyway, I needed a truck, and I got on a forum. I didn't even know where to go. This is back in the forum days. I got a diesel truck resource. Well, that was the website I found, and it happened to be a Dodge web forum, and they said 12 valves is the way to go. So you needed a 98 12 valve, and the 5-speed is, you have to get a 5-speed. So like, okay, that's what I got to get. I'm like,
did you have like a username on DTR? Diesel truck resource?
I don't remember. I didn't stay there long because I got to CompD pretty quickly. So I don't know if I just perused there and read the forums. I probably did post there, but I don't remember what my username was. So anyway, I started looking for a 12 valve because everybody said that's the one that makes the most power. You need a P-pump 12 valve. The 98 is the way to go. So that's what I started looking for, and I found a good clean one, and I had to fly to Colorado to get it. And so that was my introduction to diesels. Is my friends had some. They were into 7.3 Power Strokes. That was their world, was a 7.3 Power Stroke with a chip. And
back then, did people call them 7 trees, or did they call them 7.3s and pronounce the 3?
Back then, there was Power Strokes because there wasn't a 6.0. It was just a 7. So it wasn't like this is 7.3.
So they didn't care about the liters. They just called it
Power Stroke.
Power
Stroke. And if you had a Power Stroke, it was a 7.3. I also did drive one. So after my senior year, I was a dog food delivery man. I delivered dog food to pet shops around southern Idaho, and it had a Power Stroke, and it was like put about 6 pallets in this little box truck. And so I'd load up dog food and I'd drive around, and I thought that was really impressive because even though it was loaded, it like drove fine, accelerated fine. Like, this is actually pretty good, compared to the crap I was driving around. And so I was like, yeah, these diesels are pretty cool. So I kind of knew about it already from back then. And then I got into bullet bikes and kind of forgot about them. But once I needed a truck, I'm like, I got to get a diesel. So that was kind of like my, that's mine. What about you, Meyer? You're young. Diesels were already a thing by the time you came around.
Diesels were definitely a thing when I came around. So, I guess I'm going to start with my dad's origin story. This is his version of the story, was that he, grew up, and when the second gens came out, he just loved the body style. He's like, dude, it's like
so true.
It just changed the way a truck looks, and he always wanted one. And he's like, oh, it's got the inline 6. It's like basically a mini semi truck.
Yeah.
And so he really, really wanted one. He never really had the reason to get one. And then we bought
What color was it?
The one he bought that I hadn't made to that point of the story yet. It was silver.
Silver. Okay. I was wondering if it was the
they
same
were
color.
all silver, I swear.
Yeah, dude,
So
I love that silver.
It wasn't maroon like the Junker?
Nah, you did it, didn't you? Anyway, so then he never had a reason to get one. Well, then we bought I was like 3, bought a mobile home park. And then when you do that, you kind of need something to be able to haul those like mobile homes around with. So he was able to finally justify buying one. He ended up picking up it was 2004, and he bought a 1999 diesel, and he was not on the forums. He's not in any of that stuff. He just knew that it had the 24 valve, VP 44, and it was a manual like NV 4500 truck. It was a dually, extended cab. And that was his baby. We called it, us kids like nicknamed it his Silver Steed out of Shrek. And so then he had this blue Toyota that we called Donkey. So there's the blue Donkey, and then Shrek, when like they turns into the Silver Steed.
Right.
Anyway, so that was the meme culture there. Anyway, so I grew up in the back of that truck. Anytime we went anywhere, like hauling like anything, I was obviously just in the back, all 4 kids in the back seat of a extended cab, second gen. It was pretty great.
Wait, 4 kids? Isn't there only 3 seatbelts? Did you guys double up seatbelts, or what'd you do? Or no seatbelts?
Not a lot of
household?
seatbelts happened in that vehicle. I would say, like, I don't remember, but yeah, we don't think we doubled them up. Like, there's probably like when you have 4 people in the back seat of that a second
You're
gen,
pretty safe. You can't pack
you
in
just
there.
kind of
It's like phone packing a turbo. You're just stuck.
yeah, there's really no need to strap it down at that point. Like, you're pretty packed. But yeah, so that's where he started. And he like really wanted his mini semi truck. Like he loved that thing, and it was his baby. Like we touched it, we could get in trouble. Like it was his baby. And then we moved to the farm, and obviously trucks being started getting used for real truck things, and it kind of just went downhill. Just
you're
getting beat
talking
up
Missouri farm, like real farming.
Yeah, went out to Missouri cattle farm, and that thing. I mean, we started actually working it and like having to haul hay and like gross. I don't know. We never weighed it, but like grossing at least mid 30,000 pounds and just hauling. I can remember like we were, it was a little hilly there, and we'd load the trailer up with 17 round bales, which were 17 to 18 depending on the load, which are like, we packed them tight because we were limited on storage. So we'd make it, if we could get that as much hay in that bale as possible, it'd be like a 13 to 1,500 pound bale. We're doing 18 of those with a gooseneck and all that stuff. And there was a couple grades near our house where you couldn't get up in 2-wheel drive. You would have to, like, you have a freaking all that weight on the tongue, and you could not get up in 2-wheel drive. You had to put it in 4-wheel drive. And we had a bone stock 01 at one point because my dad, he put a chip on it eventually, and it was not, I don't remember which one. It was like a Pablo Power Pack or something like that. Diablo Power Pack. Yep. And it didn't really do much for horsepower, but it made it way more torquey for sure. But we had a grade by our house that you'd have to put it in 4-wheel drive, and we had this 01 where I'd start the grade in second gear in a manual 6-speed transmission. I would start the grade at 2,800 RPM, and I would just floor it at the base of the grade. And then at the top, it would barely crest at like 1,500 in second gear on a 01, like not a healthy truck. Not that one. I think that one just had like a timing chip in it. Like I knew more then, but I'm like, but with my dad's truck and then my truck, like we were hopped up a little bit. We could like maintain RPM in second gear. Like, whoa. So impressive. Yeah. But we're like, dude, these things are insane. And they keep taking it. He had his little propane kit because like, VP truck back in the day, he strapped a propane bottle on the bed, and he had a little button on his shifter. He had like little like spray. And so anytime he needed a little extra, he just like hit the button and wow, he just loved that thing.
Do you know where those propane kits even started?
I do not.
Farmers were putting them on their tractors so that they could pull farther. So that's where the whole technology was. These Midwest farmers being like, man,
not shocking.
I can see it.
If I can go another mile an hour, fogging propane in there, then I'm going to do it.
I know a farmer that was way back in the day. He told a story, but he bought a John Deere tractor from John Deere, brand new, and he would be plowing, and he burned up like 2 motors, and it was on his third warranty motor. And they're just like trying to understand, what are you doing to this stupid thing? Well, it turns out he had found out that there's a little button on the dash that when you hit it, it like sprays ether it's for like cold starting aid. It was a really good way of getting out of a mud hole. So he'd start to bog and just bop it. And just whoa. And I would just tear up the cylinder walls.
Oh my god.
Anyway, it was great.
John Deere's like, how are you on your third engine?
Yeah. It's like, how the crap? And so they're like, you cannot do that. Stop it. It's like, we're not doing this anymore. It's the last one. Anyway, so I can totally believe that. And that's what my dad used it for. Anytime, like, I mean, he wasn't really about downshifting. He's kind of like, that's probably where I got it from was you you start hitting a grade. Like if you have another switch or button you can hit, like freaking do it. anything but downshift.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's where, so I mean, he loved that truck and it treated us really, really well. He lost a VP in Texas going cross country, like moving us out. But the shop said, do you want a normal one or do you want the big VP? And he's like, oh, I want the big one. So he has a hot rod VP. He has a high output VP on his 99.
On his 99 standard
which
output.
It runs really good. If our dually, we hand calculated low 20s, going, 65 miles an hour. So like, it's a great truck. I mean, it's not a powerhouse, but it doesn't need to be. It makes.
So back in the day when they made those hot rod VPs though, they put the cam of the HO with the standard output plungers, and that was called a hot rod VP.
I don't think he has that. I really think he just has a high
just
output.
regular high output.
This is, you gotta remember, this is 2000 and I think it was 2006. 2006. That's when that happened.
So 10 years earlier, 1996. This is my time. He's his baby.
Yeah, that's my dad's time, not even my time. Anyway,
so sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so he loved that truck. I mean, it just did everything. And at that point, I mean, we had moved cross country with it multiple times. He'd hauled dozers and backhoes, and I was like, in my brain, I'm like, I want a diesel truck. Like when it came time, we had a lunch cart service, and like the only truck we had was his truck. And so anytime we needed to haul anything, we needed his truck. And it got to the point where the NV was getting tired, the synchros were getting worn out on it, and so we had this lunch cart service, like this concession stand that we do, and we'd haul it out to different places. And we had to go 2 trips a week. Well, one on Wednesday to pick up all our groceries, and then one on a weekend. And it was just every single weekend. So we didn't have any time to be able to go down and like take the truck down and be able to get a transmission in it. So I was like, well, it's probably about time. I'm the ripe old age of 14 years old. I should probably get my own truck. And so so I bought my own. I couldn't even drive it. I was just like, my mom would drive it, but I bought it for the so we could do this concession stand. And I was looking. And
so you're like an original foodie or food truck guy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't associate with that part of my life. But anyway, no, it was fun. It was good. It was good. We were kids. It was a great little side business. But I was like, I kind of told my dad my plan. I was like, I think I need to buy a truck. And that way, I have my own, and then you can, take your truck down. I was like, it makes sense. He's like, oh, absolutely. Like, business expense. Perfect. And so he's like, okay. He's like, my opinion. He's like, I love Dodge. He's like, it's treated us awesome, but you can buy a Ford or a Chevy if you want to. Just you can't park it here. Keep in mind, our farm was like a 1 square mile, so that'd be quite the trek. He's like, you just can't park it here. I was like, okay, well that gets rid of that, which I had no interest either way. I mean, it had been so awesome to us, and so I was like, okay, well, I wanted. I was on the hunt for anything. I didn't really like the look of a first gen, but I was like, I was like 3rd gen maybe. I didn't really care. And I got learning about how expensive the injectors are in 3rd gens. I was like, oh. No, I would never do that. I don't think I'll ever be able to buy one of those. Not the trucks, the injectors.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, we'll keep it on the 2nd gen. And I was open to anything. But a 97 2-wheel drive auto popped up, and I was like, perfect. So we went, it was like, 200 miles away. So we went, picked it up, and it was good. It had 300 and some thousand miles. Like, it was not in pristine shape at all.
Yeah.
It was losing a little bit of paint. I got it for like $2,000. But it was a runner, and we started using it. It was great. And then very shortly after we picked it up, it started having issues where anytime I'd pull a grade, it would just cut out, and it would like barely idle, barely do anything. And then it'd shut off. You'd like let it sit or something, and then you could crank it a little bit, and once you got it going again, it was fine, and you could just keep going. You could flat ground it, but anytime you pull a grade, it would start to cut out again. And so we're like, well, this is trash. I can't tow with this. The whole purpose is the tow. And so then that's when I got on the forums, like trying to understand what was going on and trying to like figure it out. Like I was not a mechanic at that point at all. I was just like, I need to be able to fix my own truck. And so I went on the forums, and so I learned 2 things. First of all, what was wrong. I had the top of the fuel tank has that steel where the fuel line goes on, the steel line that goes down into the fuel tank. It was all super rusty and had pinhole. And so of course, anytime I go up a hill, the fuel's having to pull harder, and you start asking more fuel, higher RPM, whatever it is, and it would just start to cut out
that pinhole.
Yep. And so I had to just replace the line the whole way, and that fixed it. But I also learned how the 12 valve, which I just so happened to look into, was like the G at making cheap, reliable power.
Like,
I was
hello.
like, yes, please. But I also learned that the automatics are trash. And so I was like, okay, I'm not touching this thing. Automatics are wizardry. I'm not nearly smart enough. I'm not nearly smart enough to tackle that project.
Yeah.
Like they're unreliable. They're trash. Like they can't hold any power. Like that's a whole can of worms I do not want to open. I'm going to get myself a good, reliable performance NV 4500 truck. And that's the one I'm going to modify. So that's what I did.
Nice. As I say, I interrupted you, but 10 years earlier, you were 1997, 96, or 2006. And then 1996, I had a neighbor who was a dealer for Dodge. Like his family was a Dodge dealer. His name was Eric. And he lived next to us. And when the second gens came out in 94, like your dad's right. It changed the world. It looked like it looked like a mini semi truck, like a little Kenworth, you know? I was like,
absolutely
looks so freaking cool. And that's when they introduced the V10. So you get a V10 in that second gen body. And I was like,
V10s rip.
I was so excited for the V10. Yeah, I was like, that's so cool. And so I was asking him, he brought home one day like a dually V10. I'm like, oh my gosh, is that V10 so awesome, you know? And he said, it's good, but the diesel is so much better. I'm like, what? Because at this point in time, diesel just sucked. And I was like, just like blew my mind. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, dude, when you're pulling up a grade, like the diesel would just destroy this thing. I'm like, and this is a 12 valve, you know? I'm like, that's so interesting to me. I would have never thought that. And I've always remembered that story. And another quick story was the OBS. The first power stroke I ever rode in was one of the OBS ones. So it was a 4-door. And it was amazing to me because the torque was huge. And I remember, again, this is Griff's father, Griff, who works here. He had this hot rod, what we thought was a hot rod, 350 Chevy. Basically, he had a Flowmaster exhaust that sounded real good, and it had a chip in it, you know. I mean, and it was the fastest thing we had around, you know, until we started getting older. But it wasn't even his truck. He borrowed it, and he just came back like he could not believe how well it could tow up a hill. He's like, I can pull that. I had to downshift to fourth, pulling a trailer, and just my truck, I had to downshift to fourth. Like it pulls this trailer as good as my truck pulls the truck.
Oh yeah.
And he's just like, he just couldn't believe it. So anyway, that was Griff's dad. He was a 7.3 power stroke guy his whole life. But anyway, those are kind of stories that got me just, okay, this is very interesting. Wow, that's very interesting. Like I didn't, really, really interesting. What about you, Will?
Like diesel's the way.
Yeah.
Huh?
And that actually brings up something you're talking about, like having to downshift normal.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy to me, like people talk about how 12 valves can't get out of their own way. Well, first of all, in 1996, they are the pinnacle of technology.
Right.
But also, like I drive, and we're at good elevation here, and so it's not necessarily fair, but I'll drive some like 20, like my wife had a 2011, I think, Jeep, 2011 Jeep. And I don't know if that's a C, is that the JK, I think? I don't remember. I'm not a Jeep guy. But like we have this grade coming up Black Ridge. You floor it at the bottom of the grade, and you can stay floored for 20 minutes. And it'll get like on the steep parts, it'll get down to like 70, and on the flatter parts, it'll get up to like 85. But you're floored the whole way from the bottom to the top to the cedar.
Yeah.
To cedar. Now, if you floor it all the way, I shouldn't say that. If you floor it all the way, it'll go down to like second or something and zing at 6,000 RPM, and it'll finally catch up. But if you just kick it, so it's a 4-speed. So if you got in a third, you're basically in third. That's all the power it has to just keep you going up this grade. And I'm like, dude, my 12 valve towing trailer wouldn't have to downshift this grade.
Yeah.
Like not a big trailer, but even bone stock, like it would be able to pull a trailer up this grade. And then you get like any kind of modified vehicle and you're not even trying to tow a trailer. Like it's easy to tow a trailer up there.
I will say the diesel towing, once I modified my diesel even a little bit, it was very reminiscent of my Hayabusa. Now you can say, dude, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But
towing with your diesel.
No, not towing, passing. So, or going up a hill. So when you pass someone on a Busa, I mean, it's a second. I mean, just it zips around. Or if you're going up a hill, like come up Black Ridge on a Hayabusa, it's the 1300 cc's 1.3 liter. It doesn't know you're going up a hill. Like it just feels like flat road. There's no hill. There's no more. You don't need more throttle. I mean, hardly at all. It's just like, and until you
can ask for so much more than it has.
Yeah. It just like it didn't even know we're going up the steep grade. And the diesels were the same as like we're going up the steep grade. And it doesn't even make a difference. It's like not even a thing. And anytime you've been in a truck or gas, like it's downshifting, it's revving out, and it's like it's working hard. And the diesel, it just didn't. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Yeah, downshifting sucks. Seriously, your dad is right and you're right. Downshifting it's not cool. It's not cool.
It's like a testament to your masculinity. If
Yeah,
you have to downshift. Ooh.
I always like love pulling a trailer up a grade and like a car is coming up next to me and then they're on cruise control and their cruise can't hold it and I'll just keep my cruise on and I'll just start pulling away from them on a grade, pulling a trailer. I'm like, how embarrassing for you.
That's what I'm saying. Is like some of these cars, like we talk crap about how 12 valves are slow, and so many like newer cars are so slow.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I'm surprised it ever left the floor. Like,
how did you sell this? Why did somebody buy this? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, part of what's different though is we do live at high altitude, and so stuff that is adequate, barely adequate at sea level, is not adequate at altitude.
Fair.
And it really shows.
So those are our introductions. How did you get into diesels? So Mr. Big Blue, 24.
So the way I got into diesels, when I was a kid, my dad worked construction, like built houses, and he's like a subcontractor, built decks and siding and stuff. And anyway, and we lived quite a ways out of town. It was about a 45-minute drive on the highway into town. And so because there's such a big commute, it was not cost effective to drive a full-size truck doing construction trade work. So my dad always had these little trucks like S15 GMC, Dodge Dakotas, things like that, because they'd save a little bit of gas mileage, even if it was only a mile per gallon. That's what you do. So that's the kind of trucks I grew up around. And my dad never really had anything powerful or fast. You know, he raced motocross when he was younger, and he's just like, compared to my dirt bike, all this stuff feels, slow. Yeah. And later on in life, as I got older, my dad had quit doing construction, and my best friend and I, we had both been trained by my dad to do construction. Well, he had a little Dodge D50 crappy little truck, and I had a early 90s Dodge Dakota with the V6. I didn't have the V8 one,
Baller.
And I remember we showed up at this with this general contractor's office, and we're trying to bid on this $1 million house to do the framing job. And he looked at us and looked at our trucks, and he's like, not a chance. And very quickly we learned, even though we had skill in construction well beyond our even though we were both in our early 20s, we had skill of somebody that'd been doing construction that was 30 years old. I mean, we'd done it since we were as old as I can remember, and I'd laid out houses. I mean, we were really good anyway. And so we're like, man, we need to up our truck game, because these guys won't let us build these nice houses. And we had worked for other contractors before, but once my dad had gotten out of the business, wouldn't have his license and some of his contacts, and it was just us with our own thing, it was a lot tougher, because there wasn't that recommendation, and there wasn't my dad, the old experienced guy, showing up. It was a couple kids. So we decided we need trucks, and I heard these diesels got good fuel mileage. So I had a buddy that was a new car dealer, just fresh in the world. So we went down to the auction, and I got to test drive a couple trucks. At this auction, they had a little drag strip that was about 330 feet, not quite a full 1/8 mile. And then there was a 4-wheel drive section on the back. So you could drive back, test the 4-wheel drive. But basically, so you could do a 0 to 60 acceleration test on all these vehicles at auction to see if they were good or had problems. And so I got to drive quite a few vehicles. And at first I thought I wanted a Jeep, I think it's called an XJ, these boxy, ugly ones from the mid 90s that had the inline 6. Yeah. And I drove one, and I was like, man, just slow. I drove another one, and it was just slow. And I was like, you know what? I was going to get a truck. I need to focus, quit driving all these things that I thought would be cool as a young 20-year-old kid. And so then I got into I think it was a 99 Power Stroke, and I test drove that, and it had a chip in the middle, I think it's called a hydro chip, but it had a tuning chip. And I'm like, it's got power levels and all this stuff. And my buddy's all really excited about it, and I get in it, and I'm like, that's it? That's all the power it has? And then they had this 99 24 valve. Had 176,000 miles, so it was in my price range.
Was it blue?
It was blue.
Okay.
Intense blue pearl. Had these ugly tow mirrors that somebody had, the spider ones that bolt on the side. Yeah. Had those ugly tow mirrors. And I think it was $11,000, and qualified for a loan. And through my buddy, I had to give him a little commission or whatever, a couple $100 over what he paid at the auction. And basically I brought home this 24 valve. And it was 99. It was totally stock. And then my buddy,
you didn't say how the 0 to 60 went.
It was a lot faster than the Ford, but it was it was a manual transmission, 5-speed. And so it was it was definitely more powerful, way more torquey than the Ford. But knowing what I know now, the Ford was an automatic. It probably was.
It probably did beat it.
The Ford probably beat it, but the Dodge felt faster. So anyway, so I buy this truck, and my friend, he needs to get a truck. He gets a 96 12 valve with lower mileage. Got it from some guy. It was like his first. He bought it new, took care of it, and he was upgrading. So he had a 96 that had the fuel plate slid forward. And at the time, we didn't know. All I knew is that 96, when we would race, was just a little faster than my 24 valve. It really bothered me. You know, you can't have your best friend beating you in your little street races and your slow diesels. But by the way, the diesel trucks did fix it. We landed all kinds of framing jobs. And to this day, my buddy's still a very successful, builds multi-million-dollar houses, same business, still running.
Yeah, very cool.
But so the trucks were the key. I'm not saying that you should go get a truck just to improve your image, but sometimes that's what you need.
Gets the chicks.
Gets the chicks and gets the work. I mean, that's what you need. Anyway, so very soon I was like, man, I need more power. And so I heard you could chip your diesel. So I started researching, and my research included like eBay search for chip diesel. And I came across the
where's these Pringles?
I came across all these chips, and through my research very quickly, just looking at for sale ads and the little information on those on like eBay and the few websites I found, but mostly eBay, I figured out that there's some chips like the Edge Easy that could add like 65 horsepower, and then the Edge Comp that could add 120. And I'm like
Edge Comp, let's
go. I definitely need the Edge Comp.
Yeah.
And that's what really started me in diesels, was that for work. At that time, I'd started college, went off to college. My friend stayed back and kept being a wood framing expert, carpenter. And I went to college for construction management of all things.
Yep. And
that's really how I got into diesels, is I got that Edge Comp box, put it on my truck, destroyed my buddy's 12 valve. Once you put the Edge on, like, I think like level 2, I would pull on him, and like level 5 was just like
nothing,
not even a chance. And that's what started it. And then it's like anything else. There's like this sickness that you get when you feel like this power gain. You're like, ooh, what else can I do? It
is interesting how it affects different people. Like my first truck, I found in Denver, and I found on like probably cars.com or something, you know, I don't know, some website. And it was a reseller. Some guy like traded it and he resold, and he didn't, diesels were still like, they were known at this point, but not widely. But there was definitely like a cult following, like, okay, there's a people do this. And so I found this really clean 98 quad cab 5-speed long bed. And it had like 60,000 miles. And the guy wanted 13 for it. And I found it right away, and I called it, and I bought.
What year is this roughly?
This would have been maybe 2000, 2004, 2005. Like third gens are a pretty new thing at this point in time. They're starting to see third gens around, but still second gens are very common. So, you know, and so when I got there, he's like, I have had more calls on this. I sold this way too cheap. I'm like, yeah, you did. Thanks, bud. So anyway, but it was bone stock. And I drove it home from Colorado, which is up and over some pretty nasty mountains, you know. And I remember being very underwhelmed. I was like, I don't know, man, what did I do? This is not it's a beautiful truck. It sounds cool. And, but it is not fast by any stretch of the imagination. I could feel the torque. You know, it's 440 foot-pounds of torque, which to me was a big number. Mm-hmm. And I remember like pulling hills, and like, it was just okay. I mean, it was not amazing. And so, but I did like it. But right away, I started researching, because I had found this because of forums. And so now forums are a thing. So I started researching big time. Kind of like you, like, what do you got to do? And so for me, it was the fuel plate, the number 10 fuel plate kit. And so I got a fuel plate kit.
Was it like a DDP one back then, or is some other brand like TST or somebody?
Yes, TST. So TST number 10 fuel plates. Suppose this guy was an original Cummins engineer, and he made all these fuel plates. Wow, that sounds great. And it had a little guide to put it right where I needed to be in the pump. Like, you put this guide on, so you put your plate in the exact location. Like, oh, I better do that. You know, all stuff like you didn't realize was so not important. And so, yeah, I did that. And then I did the killer dowel pit at the same time and had to figure that out. So this is like my first ever time actually working on the truck. And I got that in there.
So 6 hours later.
Pretty much, yeah. It takes a little, yeah, for real.
So 6 hours later, how was the first drive after you did stuff? How'd you feel?
It was amazing. I mean, right away, clutch was not handling it. I was like, oh, yeah, slipping the clutch. I'm the man. You know what I mean? And so I had to be careful.
And the power was intoxicating, I assume. You were like, I need more.
Yes. And it's just interesting how some people, it's enough. Like, give me the chip. And I'm not saying right or wrong. It's just, it affects different people differently. There's some that like, there's never enough. Like, I want more, I want more, I want more. And I suppose everybody in their mind has that thought, like, oh, I always want more. But yet they get satisfied, which is totally fine. You know what I mean?
Or they get satisfied enough that they quit tinkering with it and making
Yeah.
it faster.
I mean, I think some people just be like, oh, well, I want enough power. I don't have to downshift. And then they
Yeah.
get there and like, oh, I did it.
Yeah, it's enough for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's true. And so, like, my wife was that way. She's like, well, why would you need more than this? I'm like, how could you be satisfied with this?
Like, you are the one with the problem.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, because at this point I had the chip in, and then I went and I went to the local shop here, Smith Diesel Performance, who is actually,
They're still in business. I mean, they're
and
still
they
around.
were in the building we are in now. Like this is, we kind of got their old building. And so,
So you manifested this business.
yes, that's right. I did, because I did that. So I had them bump the timing because I didn't know how to do it. And they had the special dial indicator thing. I mean, this is before I understood anything, right? So we bumped the timing. That was great. And my fuel mileage was good. My power was up there. And like I say, as my,
Did you put a clutch in it or just keep milking it along?
no, we ended up putting in a South Bend clutch single disc. Nuked that pretty quick with the sled pull, but didn't know that. I figured HX35 couldn't handle, I'm not 500 horsepower, but I did feel like, this thing ran really, really good. Just HX35 fuel plate. Then I got my gauges and that kind of like, well, I better be careful, but it did run really good because that was my beginning journey in the power. If I got into it now, I'd be very like underwhelmed, which I always kind of feel bad about Meyer because he skipped like 5 years of like horsepower development he skipped like a lifetime.
You
He's
skipped
like,
the 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 horsepower level, went
8,
right to
I mean,
the
nine.
yes and no. I dabbled in that 300 horsepower range back in my Missouri days.
Did you ever have a 400 horse truck?
Probably not.
Because we both lived there for years. All right, I want to hear it.
I did not.
But that is kind of the thing that happens from generations, right? Like the generation next has a benefit of what the previous generation learned. And that's always that way. So like what you have, the knowledge, the access, not even just from us, but just from the industry itself,
Mhm.
there's probably not very many people now who like are excited about a 400 horsepower truck. Like if they're into it.
I think sane people would be interested. They would be happy with the 400.
yeah, because they
horsepower
run
truck.
great.
They do.
Yeah, but like, if you're like building a truck, like, nah, dude, I was like, you need bigger power now. And anybody your age or even younger is like, no, 400 is not the goal. 500 is not the goal.
Yeah. I remember when I was getting into it. So I had that red auto and I was like, nope, I'm never touching the power on this. Like, I don't want to have issues with the trans, none of that. So I was looking for a 5-speed, but then the prices on these trucks started going up and up. And I was kind of like stuck in the old days where I was like, I paid $2,000 for mine. I expect to find another decent deal. Couldn't find anything. And so I ended up buying a truck out of a junkyard for $1,200 that had been rolled. And then I bought a cab, a V10. It was a runner, but it was a V10 for the cab for like $1,100. And I just took the two and turned them into one truck. And
Did you throw the engine away, the V10?
I sold it.
Someone actually paid you money for a V10?
Yep, I sure did. I actually sold the parts out of the V10 for more than the cost of both the trucks.
Yeah.
So it was like basically my free truck. And
Dude, a sucker is born every day.
yeah. I mean, someone needed it. It's fine. But
if you own a V10, you have to be like the dumbest person.
I feel like, are you making Viper jokes?
Mine's not an 8-liter; it's an 8.3. So
I was like, surely there's a joke in here somewhere. I will catch it. He has a Viper truck.
Yes.
I was like,
The
I
slowest
don't have a Viper.
truck.
I have a Viper truck.
He said Viper truck.
Oh.
I did.
It's the
Anyway,
slowest thing we got around.
so I mean,
14 seconds certified in the quarter mile. 14 seconds. Nothing to get excited
And so
about.
I bought this truck because I wanted to play with it. I learned how to fix the one, and in doing that, I found out all the things you could do, and I knew my dad's truck had a little chip in it, and his truck was definitely faster. I'm like, dude, I could do the same thing, but I wanted to do everything like right. I didn't put a clutch in it, but like I built a data logger and like gauge set for my bone stock 12 valve. All that was done before I'd ever touched the plate or anything. And so finally I got all that stuff set up and I was so excited. I was like, okay, I'm there. I've done the head bolts and all that stuff. I'm like, I am ready to start turning up the power on this thing. And I had like this weird, like my thought process was like, there's a certain amount of horsepower that it takes to like keep a vehicle moving. I was like, so I'm already making that. So the acceleration I feel is from that last little bit that's left over. So if I like make more power, it's all going into acceleration. I was like, my brain made that make sense. And I was like, dude, it's going to say, I had this like goal. I was like, I wanted to be able to go 40 miles an hour. For some reason, I don't know where the numbers came from, but I want to be able to go like 40 miles an hour down a road or something and then punch it and just blow them off. I was like, that'd be so cool. So I'm gonna make 400 horsepower.
40 mile per hour rolling burnout was your goal.
Yeah, that was like, that just sounded really cool to me because I think 40 miles an hour was like, if you are like on a road, like a pavement back road, whatever, you don't want to have to come to a stop to do a burnout. So like 40 miles an hour is like you slow down a little bit, whatever gear that is, and it's like, and you can just do it, and then it'd be so much fun. You can go back up to speed limit during your burnout. I was like, oh, that'd be so cool. I was like, in my brain, I was like, 400 horse should do it. I was like, 400 horse. That's like double what I currently have. That's insane. That's like borderline unachievable.
Yes.
Like, that would be a lot of fun. And you go on the forums, especially back then, everyone's like, oh, well, 400 horsepower is the max you can do reliably. Past that, you're just destroying your reliability. 500 horsepower is like, it may or may not survive. And so I was like, 400, perfect. Yep, 400. That's what I want for my 40 mile an hour rolling burnouts. That's what I want. And then I did it. I started messing around with it. The clutch did not hold. Put a new clutch in it. That clutch did not hold. And I put a dual disc in it. And I was like ready. And I did it.
So coming from somebody that like couldn't find a deal on a truck, sound like you were very frugal, and you went through 3 clutches. So did you learn the lesson of buy once, cry once at that point in time, or how did that go down?
Obviously, I had a stock clutch in there, and then I put a
a Luke Gold Napa clutch or something?
No, being on the forums, like there's you get what you pay for. And so I got a Valère brass woven organic clutch, but I was like, again, buy once, cry once. I didn't want to like do it wrong. So I was like, well, if I'm going to buy this clutch, it'd be nice to buy it for the transmission I actually want, which is a G56. And so I had found a G56 that had a blown 6th gear for like $500. And so I rebuilt it, and then I bought that clutch and stuff, and I had like this little truck budget I had like of the parts I had sold off of like I'd bought 3 trucks and turned it into one. I had a bunch of extra parts. And so I just sold them all off, and I had this truck budget with that. And that's what I used to buy all my performance stuff. And so I did that. And it was a brass woven organic clutch. It was rated for like 450 horsepower. I was like, dude, 450 is unreliable. I'm only going to make 4. And it was rated for like 900 foot-pounds of torque. Well, the problem is at that time, I loved torque and I loved spool up. And so I'd made a quick spool valve into my HX35. And I can basically...
Nobody complains about HX35 spool up, and you made a quick spool valve for yours.
I lived at 600 feet.
And you still needed a spool up valve. Oh my gosh.
He's like, I need more torque. I
just wanted to be... I was like... Because first time I started tuning it, I hated smoke and I wanted to be clean. And I was tuning it, and I was like, man, I can't get this thing to spool below like 1,400 RPM without it being smoky. And I was like, this is dumb. Like, it's in my brain, it should have been able to do it. But like I look back now, I'm like, the engine doesn't want to. Just stop. Don't do that.
Yes.
that was the solution. But I was like, I gotta figure out a solution. So I did a quick spool valve, and that was awesome. Super torquey. I could like spool like at 1,200 RPM. I could make 20 pounds of boost pretty easily with like smoke free. I'm like, just that poor bottom end.
Yeah.
But what happened?
But clutch just it's. I mean, basically straight out of the gate, I had enough power to be able to slip it, like torque to be able to slip it. And so I just turned it down a little bit and it was fine. But when you operate it right there on the edge, I also learned later that during the summer, I don't know if it's just the friction, like the spring steel or something, it holds less. So I did all that stuff in the winter. And then during the summer, I could slip it. And then in the winter again, I couldn't slip it. And so I was like, that's weird. Anyway, then I had to tow with it.
Why is that? Is there temperature?
I'm like,
difference?
Maybe the steel has more springiness and when it gets cold, like I was like, maybe
so it's more of the ply plate gets
I don't know. I was like, that's
because you'd
backwards.
think you'd make more horsepower when it's cold.
Exactly. And I was like, hot day, cold day, I can tell the difference. I was like, that's weird. And like that tells you how much on the line I had tuned it, because I didn't want anything left on the table.
It was all
well. Then I had to actually work the truck, and I burned the crap out of that clutch, and I like had to get through the season. It was like down to the rivets by the time I pulled it out. But then I was like, okay, I learned how torque is actually what matters when it comes to grading clutches, and I was estimating.
And a lot of people don't know that. Like, clutches are rated at horsepower to make it easy for customers to buy. horsepower, it does not factor into the equation of a clutch at all.
No, doesn't care.
Unless it's like a drift car and you're doing 6,000 RPM shifts,
And
then
that's the
horsepower
problem.
makes heat, but it's the torque.
And that's one thing I learned when I was like towing, when I was like, I had burned up my clutch like pretty bad. I don't remember what exactly happened, like how it went from good to like very meh, but it did that very quickly. And then I had to like work the rest of the truck for another couple months. And so I learned that because I would be towing a trailer and I'd have to keep the RPMs up. I had to live at 2,500 RPM. Otherwise it would slip. It had to be above 2,000. Like at 1,800 RPM, I could hold probably 10 pounds of boost, but at 2,500 RPM, I could hold 25 pounds of boost. And I'm like, it's definitely making more power up here. But just when you look at the crank, if like in slow motion, you'd think it's just constantly spinning. It's not. At that low RPM, it is stalling for however long, and then next compression or next firing order, whatever, it jars again and jars again and jars again, and it's like stalling between the jars, and like that wreaks havoc on clutches. Yeah. Like that's the exact opposite thing of what it wants to have to deal with. And so I learned that high RPM really helps keep everything alive, but either way, quick spool valve for the life. So that was that. Anyway, so I was like, okay, I learned what torque was and how it was bad on clutches, so I bought a dual disc. I think at that point I went to a South Bend. Just because when I called them, they were willing to like work on.
Did Peter himself answer the phone? Peter from South Bend?
I don't think so. They had to go pull someone out of the back.
He was the guy that everyone in the forum like, you got to talk to Peter at South Bend back in the day.
Yep.
They gave me like dealer pricing. They like helped me out on it a little bit for reasons. But
is it because you were getting rid of the Valère?
No, it was because I was kind of an up and coming
forum moderator type person,
forum warrior / YouTuber.
You started to learn that your fame can get you a discount on parts.
My fame got me a discount on parts. Yeah. Well, I make like reviews and like do stuff, and I was like, I'll review the crap out of your
When
clutch.
you called Haltech for parts, did you say, hey, this is Meyer from YouTube?
I did not say. I didn't even call them. Anyway, that got off on a tangent pretty quick. But yeah, I put a dual disc in there with a G56.
I told you I was going to tease you today.
Yeah, did not disappoint. I don't remember where. So I got I put like what I estimated to be about 350 horse into it with whatever turbo I had, and I was like ready to feel like that acceleration. I was like, this is like, I don't even need like
40-mile-an-hour burnout. Did it do the 40
I could do it kind of in gravel. But I was like, wow, this is considerably less than what I was envisioning, like what I had it hopped up in my brain to be.
Yeah.
I was like, it's considerably less. And then like the life got busy, so I kind of just left it in that state for a while. And then, you guys dragged me out here, and
is an interesting phenomenon of what you build up in your mind versus what really it comes to, I remember like I had decided it's time to upgrade a turbo.
Oh yeah.
And
I can only imagine, especially in your early days.
Yes.
Like I was so excited about like a plate.
Yes.
A whole turbo.
Well, I got turbo. I had some DDP stage 4 injectors in this thing, I'm pretty sure. And timing, and I'm like, so I got a turbo. So I'm going to get a turbo. And they were pretty spendy. Back in the days, I got the industrial injection Silver Bullet 64 for the recommendation of my local diesel shop, because the 66 is just too big. 64 would be good. All right, that's a good idea.
Just that obnoxious big single.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the forums, like it was, I mean, to their credit, as a good recommendation for what was known at the time, because that was like, the 66 is like a great sled pull turbo. That's just massive. 64 is a good compromise. Like, all right, that sounds good. I'm on the street still, so and so I put it in there, and I had to have to go arounds with my wife. I'm sure I've told you the story before, but I'm like when I get this turbo, like I'll be good for a while. Like,
this thing's gonna be insane.
Like for years. I mean, this is all I'm going to need. Like, I just do this and I'll have the truck I want and things will be fine.
You'll see.
You'll see. I got it in there, and it ran really good. We are
above 1,800 RPM probably.
Yeah, but it was laggier than I wanted, but I was okay with lag, but the payoff wasn't there for me. It wasn't enough.
The lag to power ratio.
That's where that term came from, was that one. Because I got other turbos that had a similar amount of lag with way more payoff. But it was my first one, Silver 64. And this kind of led me, it ran good, but in my mind it was gonna be more. Just like you had, it's gonna be more. And I was a little disappointed, I guess you would say, in the power in my mind. I had built up in my mind, this is gonna be amazing, because the forum guys talking about this is a sled pull turbo, you're gonna have all kinds of power. And it ran good, but it wasn't enough. And I actually took that to a dyno competition. This kind of starts like your premise of your original question, what keeps you going? This is my first competition. I took that turbo to a dyno. It was a drag race in Salt Lake, but they had a dyno as well. You could go run on a dyno, pay some
Was
money.
that Weekend at the Edge event?
Yes, it was Weekend on the Edge. You could pay some money and run on the dyno. And at this point in time, there's no way I'm racing these cars. Like there was enough people in diesels at this point in time. Like there was some really cool builds already. And I'm just
you probably saw the junker there making laps, right?
In Salt Lake.
I've raced at that event a couple times.
You probably maybe
I think I ran 11s there.
Ooh. Anyway, I took it and I dynoed there and I did 534 horsepower. I remember that was my first dyno, 534. And I thought it was pretty good. Not knowing anything about correction factors and things like that at the time. But I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome, 134. And my wife was very disappointed when about 2 weeks later I had a different turbo. it was not long before because then again, the Smith Diesel local shop, he had a pretty powerful truck and he had a Aurora 5000, which is the K31 70 millimeter, and I put that on there.
Is that the turbo he was running at the first Diesel Power Challenge he went to with that silver?
Different trucks. This is a 12 valve.
Oh, he had a 12 valve.
This two brothers. This is the other brother. This is Ryan. He's the older brother, and he had a 12 valve, and he had an Aurora 5000, and I borrowed that and blew it up. So that was great. So then I ended up with a Garrett, which was my favorite single turbo I'd had on that truck, and that was a very fun turbo. The lag was really not much worse than the Silver 64, but the top end was way, way better. And so that's kind of what started me down the path of having fun. So the first year I went and I just dynoed, and my wife's like, you can't race, you can't break your truck. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to race, just in a dyno. The next year I was racing. so I'm like, I got to try this.
Did she not want you to race because she thought it was dangerous, or because
I don't know if she thought about
worried
that.
you'd lose, or?
She didn't care about if I lose. She's not worried. If you go, you might lose. No, that was not a concern.
That doesn't seem like it would be, no.
No, I think she didn't want me to break the truck because then I got to pay to fix it. It's like, you already put enough money in the
clutch. Or we already done.
We've done turbos now and clutches, and I'm like, geez, man. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's thinking like, you're gonna spend all of our money in this stupid truck, so you should not race it. I'm like, okay. Got up there. Yeah, I'm racing. Let's go. So I raced, and I was still my 5-speed truck, and this had that GT42 on it, and I remember I was like hanging out within the sportsman bracket. I had to learn how the tree works. Didn't even know how the tree works. Like how do you get a good light? How I'm talking to the guy next to me like, dude, your light's like your action time's insane. How come you're just so good? So he explained to me how the lights work. I'm like, oh, okay, that works better.
It's like if you wait till green like Meyer does all the time, you'll be late.
Yeah. So
actually, you've kind of cured yourself.
He's
of that
gotten
problem.
way better. You've kind of fixed that. But so I learned when to leave, and I remember being really, really excited because I was able to get to 100 miles an hour in the quarter mile. And the guy's like, dude, you got 100 in the quarter mile. I'm like, yeah, bro, I got 100 miles an hour in the quarter mile. That's hot stuff in the low man's class. But it was incredibly fun. Like it felt fast.
What's funny is I'm so used to 8th mile. I was like, 108 is pretty good. I'm like, wait, that's in the quarter.
In the quarter.
Slow.
Yes. And I was,
that's a 13-second quarter mile.
It was a 13. I was super excited because I had to wear a helmet. I legally had to wear a helmet. Like, you can't, you're too fast to just go.
You go under 14 flat, you have to wear a helmet.
So they're like, dude, you got to wear a helmet. I'm like, yeah, I do. Yeah, because I'm so fast. I was pretty proud. And why not? And that's fun because to me, it's like, I was proud of that. It was fun. I was like, it's a step. Every step was growing and getting better. And I got to enjoy all of them. I had fun riding a 13.9 in my truck. I thought I was the stuff.
But to put stuff in perspective, like 2006, like a 2006 C6 Corvette at that time, at Utah altitude, they would run a low 14.
Yeah.
Or maybe a high 13 with a good driver.
Yeah.
If you ran anything less than like a 13.9, you would beat. So at the time, that was
super fast.
A sports car. That was fast. You know,
in your manual transmission.
I was rolling gears. Yep. I was rolling gears doing
awesome.
that. It was really cool. And so, yeah, I had a lot of fun. And shortly after that, I broke my, my input shaft of my MV4500 and went to automatic and proceeded to break turbos. And from there, it just went crazy. But that was kind of like why my progression of just a plate, then a turbo, then a dyno, and that was fun. And started doing dyno competitions. Now, well, racing looks fun. Yeah, I shouldn't do that. Yep, I'm racing. And so I'm racing and just kind of leads how it goes. That was my progression.
Do you think what made you keep wanting to add more power? Was it just the goal to go faster and get a faster time slip? Or was it when you're racing and you beat somebody, you're like, dude, that was fun. I want to do that again, but I want to beat even faster people, or what? Mine
was simply the thrill of acceleration. I would go and use nitrous on back roads just to feel the truck be fast. Like I liked going fast. Like that's why I like my Hayabusa. I go out by myself and I go fast. And so, I mean, in my truck, I'd go on back roads and I'm tuning a nitrous on this thing and I'm hitting nitrous. There's nobody that I'm racing. I'm just out here having fun. Like, oh my gosh, this nitrous is so fast. I love this, you know? And so I started playing nitrous and yeah, I wanted to go fast, but we're out west. There's not races out here regularly. It's not like you're in the Midwest. You can go, you know, you have classes and stuff. Like we had Weekend on the Edge once a year.
And you don't live in a big city where you can go do the illegal street racing on Saturday night.
Yeah, you were in Vegas, so you had a lot of that stuff. I didn't have any of that. So literally, I'm just doing it because I freaking love power. And I wanted more of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Because there's no one to race. Although I did go to airport, they did in St. George have some airport drags once in a while. And by this time, I already had compounds. I was starting to do silly stuff. And there I was the fastest guy on the lot. You know what I mean? I was just killing everybody. But that was a year or two down the road.
Four-wheel drive things.
Four-wheel drive things, yep. Camper shell things.
I remember my 99. So I went to college here in Utah. I was from Washington State originally. And I remember when I had my Edge comp chip, I was out there, you know, and if I'd get after it really hard, the roads are kind of slick in Utah. It would spin a little bit in second gear when I take off, not doing a clutch jump, but just clutch out, rolling along, and I could smack it. And it would get a little bit of a rolling burnout going depending on the road. And I was just like, wow, this is awesome. I can do that. Well, then it would rain and I could do rolling burnouts easily in fourth gear on my 5-speed. And I was like, oh man, this truck is so fast. I could spin the tires in fourth in the rain. And if it was really, really wet and it was just right, sometimes I could even get them in fifth a little bit.
Ooh.
But then very quickly I was like, man, I need more power. So the next step after I had my Edge was injectors. And I was a poor college kid. I couldn't afford injectors. So I looked, the biggest injector nozzle you could get was Edge, these Edge Jammer Stage 5s. So I bought some Stage 5 Edge Jammer nozzles, and I didn't know how to build injectors. I didn't know how to do any of that. So I took them apart in my college apartment, swapped the nozzles, used vice grips to hold the bodies. I didn't have like all the right tools or torque wrenches.
Wow.
And yeah, I swapped my own nozzles and I went and put them in the parking lot of my out there. And dude, when you put bigger injector nozzles on a VP truck with a chip, it added a lot of power, like at least 100 horsepower. It was solid. At that point, I had a buddy that was more affluent than I was, and daddy's money type kid, you know, and he had one of those, one of them had a Subaru STI, which at my time, I thought that was like an awesome car. I was like, dude, this thing can run 13s. It's turbo. This is awesome. So he had an STI and he took me for riding it. And I was like, that's it. That's all. And so very quickly I learned that 13 seconds that I always read about in a magazine or saw was fast is not really that fast because the acceleration didn't really feel much different. And very quickly I was like, well, I've already got big injectors. I've got a tune. What else can I do to my 99 to make it faster? Obviously it needs a turbo upgrade. And so, yeah, I went right for that HE 351.
Ooh.
$89 eBay special.
The baller. So crazy for $89. It's insane.
But back then, they're like, oh, it has a solenoid on it. You can't use it. It's got that electronic solenoid. I was just like, man, that still has a wastegate.
That looks an awful lot like a pipe plug.
Where I was thinking pinch the hose with the vice grips and disable the wastegate. That's what I was thinking. I was like, it's all sealed up. It can't leak anywhere. What is it?
Where's it going to go?
There's no computer hooked to it on my truck. I'm just going to pinch the line. Yeah. But I didn't know how to weld. I didn't know how to fabricate. I still don't really know how to fabricate, but yeah, so it was like silicone couplers and clamps, like this whole snake thing of 45s and 90s and little chunks of exhaust tubing. And dude, I turbo swapped an HE 351 in college in the parking lot. It's real.
It is interesting. And I go back to my Hayabusa because I still have my Hayabusa during this early time. And I guess we're at altitude here. And so the Hayabusa is pretty weak here. But my truck is too. I took that truck with that Silver 64, like I was talking about, kind of a dog. I took that across country to my brother in Michigan, and out there, it was a rocket. Like it was way better out there than it was here. Like so, altitude does make a difference, even with turbo, especially single turbos.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I got back here and it wasn't that great. So, but once I started playing with diesels and getting a little bit more power, the way a diesel delivers power is highly addictive. It's so fun. It got so fun to where my Hayabusa became boring to me. I have a Hayabusa and it was I mean, I'm at altitudes, and I'm a bigger dude, but like, it just never, the torque is the thing that's addictive. That's the thing. That's why you liked your little quick spool valve. Or the torque is the thing a diesel has that is like, you just feel it.
And it doesn't matter where you are. You just give it more throttle and the engine will pull through.
Yes. Where the Busa, you need to get the RPM up and you can wrap it out. And it's going fast. It's going fast, but it never has that torquey feel that the diesel did. Like, I'm like, man, like I just started driving it less and less and less because honestly, the diesel was more fun because of the torque feel. I mean, if I go down to like lower altitude, the Busa, it was like a whole nother animal. It was super fun down there. And it was fast. Yes, it was faster. I'm not saying anything like that, but I'm just telling you the power delivery of a torquey diesel is so addictive, and to where it almost made my Busa, even though it was so fast, and it was incredibly fast. I mean, it was awesome, but it did not have that feel, which gassers just don't. They just, they need that RPM and speed builds, but it's just building speed, but you don't have that warp speed sucked into your seat kind of feel. When I was at lower elevation, sometimes the Busa would make your eyeballs go blurry, and that was pretty cool. But
I think what kept me going, the diesel accelerator, that's addictive. That's very fun on anything, dirt bike, anything. That acceleration is very addictive. Because I lived in Las Vegas after I graduated college, and I was doing construction there. I was at the racetrack because they had the street legal night every Friday night, and it wasn't every Friday, but it was on Fridays, let's say twice a month.
Yeah.
All, started in early spring and went late fall. And so there was 20 different times you could go to the racetrack. Vegas is a big town, so you get exotics out there. You get Lambos and stuff. You get BMWs, you get real race cars, muscle cars, all that. And I remember seeing these cars, and I was kind of into cars, and I'd read in a magazine about how fast the new Corvette, or when those 5th gen Camaros came out from the Transformers movie. One of my coworkers had bought one, and he got the Camaro SS with the 6-speed and the 6.2 liter, and it's supposed to be so fast. He's like, oh yeah, this thing runs, 13.125 miles and all that. And I was like, man, at the track, when I see these cars running, they're usually in the low 14s. I never saw one even touch 13. And I learned a little bit about altitude. And at that time I had a 98 12 valve automatic, my tow truck, that I had put some small compound turbos on. I was running 13.1s. And I'm like, dude, my freaking truck I drive every day to work, rely on. And later in life, it made a little over 500 wheel. It wasn't really anything special, but it would, boosted 4-wheel drive launch. It'd run 13.1, 13.2, like clockwork there. And I was like, it's not as fast as you think. And he was like, oh yeah. Well, we had a company barbecue and I worked at this big construction thing. And there was like this little grudge race out in front of the shop between me and this other guy. This other guy was like a higher up executive at the company. And I was kind of like a underling, just barely there. And we lined up where he's like, oh man, Thad's got this, his Camaro's, going to destroy Will. And we get out there and it was like not even close. I mean, I destroyed him. Yeah. And he was just like, I don't get it, Yeah. It's kind of like on Fast and Furious. How could I lose, and I was like, dude, you got a 14-second car and I have a low 13-second truck, and it does it on the street too. And so then there was another boss there. He had a Maserati, and those have the Ferrari F40 engine, big dollar. I mean, we're talking
twin turbo V6, the F40
it had
engine.
The actual F40 engine in it. Yeah, so there was that year that they could get him, and behind his back, his name was Tony. I would tease him. I'd be like, he's got the Ferrari F40 maintenance, but the performance of a Camaro, because I looked, and they are also a high 13-second at that altitude, low 14, depending on how they go. 12-second car if they're down at sea level, but they just weren't that. And my truck destroyed that car too. And everybody's just like, who thought Will has the fastest vehicle here? The other owner has a Porsche Cayenne S. And he's like, what about the Porsche? I was like, they were about 14.3 at Vegas. Because I'd seen all these cars. I knew exactly what, why had I seen a Maserati? Because there was some rich guy at the casino that would race once in a while. Yeah. And so I was just kind of going through. In fact, I told the boss, I said, hey, you remember that Mercedes E55 you had that you traded in when you got your Maserati? That was actually a 12-second car. 12.9. I said, you could have beat me with a tire, but not on the street.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it's so fun when you beat those and people's mind are blown. That kept driving me more and more. And then as you start racing at the track on these street legal nights where it's not just diesel trucks, you're racing Camaros and Mustangs and all walks of life and Volkswagen Beetles. Some Beetles are slower than crap. Some of them pull the wheels and run 10 seconds on nitrous. Like that's what hooked me, is going to the track, racing all these things. And
you loved the sleeper. Of all the people in the world who loves a sleeper, Will is like the king of the sleeper. Like that's what he loves, a junker. It came with a busted up bedside, and he's like, perfect. Like, he loves his mangled up bedsides. He loves his nasty painting. And he loves just beating on very expensive cars, and he has for years. It's like, and the sleeper is super fun.
The pinnacle of that stupid truck back in the day when I lived in Vegas, there's this beltway that runs around Las Vegas called the 215 Beltway, and it was in various stages of construction. And because the economy crashed, the funding for that kind of slowed down from the state. And these kids would like street race at night on there, and they'd like shut down sections of the Beltway. And so when it wasn't street legal race night, it was like open roll race night on the 215. And there were some kids came up on bullet bikes one night, and they're telling us how fast they were. And I was out there in the junker, and I was like, oh yeah, let's go, And we get out there. This kid was on a 600cc bike, thinking it was hot stuff.
600s are not fast.
And I had raced at the track enough to know that 600s at Vegas, they run like 12. It depends how good the driver is, but let's say a 12.2 to as high as about a 13, depending on how good the guy could get out of the hole. But I looked, and their mile per hour would only be about 110. And back then, the junker on street tires, it'd run like a 12.1 to 11.9 at about 115 on street tires. So like, I knew that I had more horsepower to weight because I had more mile per hour, and
you could get out of the hole better. Yeah,
the hole better. And so we weren't hole racing on the highway, but I knew I could pull them out on the highway because then I had traction. The other problem with the junker is it would only trap like 112 to 115, but it would run out of gear because of that. But out on the street, I had taller tires, and so I didn't actually lay over on the top end as early. So the junker would really go about 120 if it had the tire to turn the RPM, which it did out on the highway. But I remember this guy on this 600 bike, and he gets there and hunkers down, and I see him, and he like gets up and looks at me, and gets up and looks at me as I'm like pulling away, and he's like this nervous, and he like hunkers down, and then you get guys on like a 750, like a Gixxer, and a Gixxer was almost right even, but I could still pull them. And then the 1 liter bikes, they would slowly pull on me. Yeah. But I didn't really race. There wasn't a lot of boosters around there, but still, when you're in this ratty old crappy truck out in the middle of the night, just hooning around, it was so fun. It was so fun.
I can only imagine that would have. I don't know how I could be hooked more than I am, but that would have done it. Like, that would have been fun.
And you got your competition and stuff like that really happened when you kind of moved out west.
Yeah. So out east or Missouri, there's just in Southeast Missouri, there's like nothing. I didn't know of anyone that had really anything of any substantial like power at all. Yeah. Like, everyone had a Chevy 350 or something like that, or everything's basically stock. We didn't have anything performance out there. The people that thought they had performance stuff did not. So, I mean, it is what it is. But once I moved out here, then I started, obviously hanging with you guys, hanging with Josh, and it's just like, yeah, horsepower sounds like fun.
Yeah.
And then we didn't do any like racing or anything. I'd like line up with like coworkers or something, and manual transmission never really treated me that well. Like, I could outpower them for sure, but it's just a matter of how fast I was able to shift that day. Mm-hmm. And then we went to a dyno competition, my first ever, and I made 628 horsepower, I think.
This is in Tonasty?
In Tonasty.
Yep.
And
so it's 12 valve.
12 valve, yep. And I was like, yep, I want that number to be bigger.
Yep.
And that's where it all happened. And just kind of went from there.
Yeah.
And then I got into the thing where, manuals weren't fun. I had just spent all this time manual swapping, G56 swapping, dual disc clutching. I was like, I can't put an auto in this thing. I think it would hurt me too much to do that. So I was like, I need a different truck. So that's when the Shorty came about.
Yeah.
And that was fun.
I think the second vehicle really unlocks it, because when it's not your transportation, Like that was the problem I had with my 24 valve was I was racing at the drag strip and I hurt the clutch and I had to limp it into work. And it was, you had to start it in gear with your foot because you couldn't shift it into gear once it was running because the clutch was dragging so bad. And it's like, just very quickly, I learned that like when you have like a real job, like post college and you're expected to be at work on time and reliable, you can't be racing your transportation the night before, you know, and
so I will say that's something nice about working here is that wasn't really a concern. Cause I know if I like said like, hey, I just like split my block, you guys like, been there.
Like, that sucks. Need a ride?
Let me know
what do you need?
Let us know if you need anything.
Yeah.
So that was less of a concern. But yeah, I mean, you still relied on it. And if it broke, you're like, dude, that's gonna be a long night.
Oh yeah.
The other problem I felt too, when it's your primary transportation, it costs a lot more to fix it because you don't have time to research a used eBay part or whatever. You got to just buy whatever you can find to get your vehicle.
Yeah.
And I noticed it was actually cheaper to have a second vehicle because if it sat broken for 3 weeks till you figured out a different turbo or an axle shaft, when you broke an axle shaft in the junker, you know, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
When it's your transportation, it's like, you got to get it up and running. So you got to go buy a new axle from Napa or wherever. And
What's just funny about that my 12 valve is, I mean, when I finally, I daily drove that for probably a year and a half, 2 years at that. Like I finally got up to like 728 horsepower. I think is the I mean, it was 713. I don't remember what it was, but like I beat the crap out of it. I mean, quick shifted it. Like I did all that stuff. It never broke. The only issue it ever had was a wire came off the alternator and it stopped charging. So I had to like splice the wire together again. Like I did not have problems with it breaking and like leaving me stranded. It's like the one vehicle I've ever had that's just never given me a single fit.
so the forums are wrong. Like 500 horsepower, totally reliable. 600, pretty totally reliable.
Yeah. And I was a kid. Like I beat the crap out of that thing, trying to shift it fast. And we put a single GT42 A on there from a 60 series Detroit
GTA.
Which is very, very different than
Journal bearing, not ball bearing.
42. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was off a 60 series Detroit. It was a terrible turbo and it made like 500 horse and spooled like absolute crap. But it was cool. I was like, wow, I want compounds. I'm not about this big single life. Josh was all about his big singles. And like that was a baby single compared to his. But I was like, no, this is trash.
I tried to run a 4294 on the junker and it was slower than the HU 351 was. Because I couldn't leave as well, couldn't come up, and it made more mile per hour, so it made more average horsepower, but it was slower ET at the track because I couldn't get it.
No, you just need a looser converter or something, probably.
I already had a little bit looser. It just didn't. It was slow enough through first and second gear, so the junker couldn't leave it 20 pounds of boost, and so that spool time killed you because your 60 foot would be slower because you could, let's say you can only leave with 7 pounds of boost.
Did you try like leaving at 15 and dragging the brakes through first? That feels like a Will Terry fix to that problem.
We tried that because also the thought is if you drag the brakes, the thought is you can kind of drive under the front end. And so it can kind of like load the tires harder.
You'd think it'd work. It didn't.
I tried a VGT turbo on there with like a spring gate.
I remember
that broke the shaft about the third run. During the burnout, I let off. Because my spring gate was too tight. And 350, all kinds of stuff. But that was also the fun. That's when I got hooked on the data, is when you get that instant feedback. And a dyno's addictive. Like that's where you got your addiction. I got mine at the drag strip because I didn't have a dyno, but the drag strip gives you a mile per hour. That's very, very closely related to your average horsepower.
Mine was just, that feels faster. That feels good. Oh, that burnout was better. That was easier. Yeah, it's just, something about like improvement. Finding a way to verify improvement is very, very rewarding.
But as you get further along in your career, like towards the end now, like what's driving you right now? Like you spent a lot of time with Josh strategizing how to set the dyno record. Is it the accolades? Is it the fame? What's making you continue, Meyer?
I enjoy a challenge. Like that's what people give 6-0s or VPs or whatever, like the underdogs a hard time. I'm like, I don't really care what the number is. I just want a challenge. I want to do something I haven't done before. I want to try things in ways that I don't think they've been done before. I want to play and I want to like understand things better. Like people, I would assume people look at us and think like, oh wow, those guys just know everything there is about diesels. And I'm just like looking at all the things I have no idea about. I'm like, I want to know those things.
Yeah.
I want to understand them better. Like I have a general theory or a general idea how something works, but I want to prove the concepts. And so that's what makes me do what I do. I'm like spending like a lot of, like kind of too much time. Like,
yeah, you do spend a lot of time on that, is for sure.
I would say it's probably 2 full-time jobs, one at Power Driven and the other at Power Driven.
Yes. It's about right. But the stuff you've learned like from us, and then you have figured out, and we've learned from you, like it's just so fun. It's so fun.
And it's like, it kind of like in the last I would say the last 3 weeks haven't gone my way in the way of like trying to make power and trying to do different things. Like I hurt my engine, I built a new engine, and then I hurt that engine, and just like, and then having dyno issues, like it didn't give us numbers and stuff. So it kind of sucks because I didn't make the numbers I wanted to. It didn't go as successful as I wanted to, but it was a learning experience. The things I wanted to try, they didn't work. The things that we tried, they didn't work. I'm like, hey, there's, what is the Thomas Edison or whatever, like 40 ways not to build a light bulb, like there's a lot of ways not to do something, and you have to learn those just as much as anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's cool too, is that when everything works every single time, you don't get the enjoyment from it.
No.
If every single time you went out to go do something and it worked and it did exactly what it was supposed to do, it would almost get boring.
Yeah.
Like if you never fail, then it never brings any reward to when it actually goes well. And so I'm just kind of chucking up to like, yeah, learning experience. Next time
it's gonna be fun soon.
Yeah, it will be fun soon.
I mean, there's some truth to that though. I mean, that might be, I'm not trying to like stereotype, but I don't see a lot of really wealthy people doing diesel racing it's like, if you can spend a lot of money and pay a Formula One team to build you the best vehicle, and then you easily go out and win, sometimes there wasn't enough struggle there that the win isn't that sweet, and you move on to another, okay, now we got to go into boat racing or sailing or something. But if you have to work hard to get something, the win or the success is more enjoyable.
Which I will say, I mean, I think there's a part of that's 100% true. However, like it's more than just building the truck. Like on the dyno, like, or drag race, anything, you have to drive it. And if you truly just know nothing, you paid someone to build you a truck, you still got to pilot that land yacht.
Yep.
And you've got to remember like depending on what you're doing, you got to remember to shift. You got to hit this like nitrous on the dyno. You got to hit it at the right time with the right load, not too early, not too late. Like there's like in basic, like when you start talking about the upper levels of anything, a lot is happening and not a lot of time. And so it's its own challenge. Like I think it's obviously when you have one piece of the challenge, it's easier to master that. And then once you get good at it, then, I mean, if you're drag racing or like have a truck that does good, now you're doing it every time against someone else. But that is where like you start kind of getting bored of like, okay, the truck's doing what it's supposed to do, but, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I mean, you're not the one working on the truck. So like for us, it'd be like, once you get bored, you're like, okay, well, let's kick it up a notch. Let's throw another turbo at it and like compete in the higher class or compete in the whatever class. I mean, when I started, I was dealing in the small compound class. And now the last couple of weeks, I was trying my hand at the unlimited class. Pooh, I've made more in the small compound. It didn't go as planned.
Yeah. And even like, I will say like, I don't think a person has to be the guy wrenching. Like some people, it's just not in their skill set to wrench or wire, and it's not in their time allotment, but they still research and figure out and dream and scheme the build. And if they have to hire, I mean, I don't do everything on my truck, none of us do everything. So I don't fault a guy who doesn't necessarily build his entire vehicle, but I do think it is rewarding, like you say, someone who's like integrally involved in making decisions and trying things. Maybe you're not doing it, but I want to try this turbo or that turbo. And you're still like experimenting and learning. And I think that's still rewarding for people.
Yeah, for sure. And there's just like, there's always so much, like with our stuff or my stuff, I guess, there's just so much new stuff that's being tried that like when we went to Montana and everything just worked, I was like, dude, there's so much. Like I almost didn't go to Montana because of all the new stuff I was trying. I was like, dude, there's a very low chance that this all just works. I was like, you know what though? I'm pretty confident. Like it should work. It's supposed to work. And if it doesn't, I can fix it there. and it all worked. And I was like, that was like probably a high point. It's probably gonna be a high point for me for a very long time, just because not like, yeah, I won. That's awesome. But like everything worked. Normally when I go to a drag race, like not only do I, the driver, fail at it, but so does the truck. And so that time I was like, dude, I'm doing good. I like everything that was supposed to happen happened. And I was like, that was satisfying. That was rewarding. I'm like, okay, I want to do it better.
Yes. Yeah. It is highly rewarding. That first win. Yeah, that makes racing very addictive. Racing is super, especially when you have a battle. You're right next to the guy.
Yeah.
What a
for
great
sure.
way to win. So yeah, I mean, there's the passion's still there. Like I say, my whole time I've been doing this, I've been trying new things, figuring out new ways to do stuff, figuring out wrong ways to do stuff, wanting bigger stuff, and I haven't even changed. Like it's still right there. I'm still excited about the Cummins cart sitting over there. I'm excited about the Godfather behind me here, and I do realize though, I'm not in a huge hurry. People ask about the Cummins cart or the Godfather a lot, and it's something I'm excited about, and I am, but I don't want to like get to the end of the road too soon. Like I want to have some time with the Cummins cart. It's very fun. We're learning new things there, trying new things. Whatever we learn there, we'll get over to the Godfather in a bigger and more intense way, and I'm going to enjoy that for a long time. Like I have a lot of years ahead of me, and you guys do too. Like I don't need to have the fastest thing on planet Earth today. I just want to keep building something fun and having fun with it.
Because you don't want to get burned out. Sometimes you put too much into it for too long, you get burned out.
Meyer needs a nap.
Meyer needs about a week off from trucks right now.
I was like, after this whole
straight.
thing, I was like, you know what? I was like, I need to take a break. I was like, you know what? I was like, 3 weeks, like that'll be good. I just won't touch a truck. And then like it was that night, I was like, I could do this though.
Yep.
I was like, I think so. I started researching it more. I'm like, oh my, I got problems. But what's funny is like you were talking about like, you know, the journey and like having, and like you went fast or whatever. I don't remember exactly what you said, but fit into this. I was talking to someone about your 517 pass, and they're like, oh, now that you're like the fastest mechanical truck, like what's the goal? Like, wow, like how hard did you have to fight for that? Whatever. And I was like, I think you don't understand how Todd's brain works. I was like, Todd's brain. The fact that's the record has zero effect in Todd's brain. Todd's brain went, that feel good. I want feel gooder.
Yeah, pretty much right.
I want to go faster.
So if you're wondering what his thoughts are, that is it.
That was just like the back roads. Like that felt faster. I like that. Must feel gooder. Yeah, it's true. Like that was amazing. What else is out there?
Like some people, yeah, it's like crazy. Like I mean, I definitely feel like I'm more competitive. Like even if I made more horsepower than I ever have, if I got beat by someone else, like no, I will not have that. Like I can try harder. I can do better. Like if someone else can do it, I can do it too. Todd, ooh, that feel good. I want to feel gooder.
I enjoy the joy of the ride. Like I do, and I know like there's like as you get fast enough in a lot of companies that like I talked to somebody about this. Like, why don't the people drive their trucks? Why don't the owners drive their trucks? I'm like, I don't know. I can't understand. I can't even imagine hiring someone to drive a vehicle I built. Like the whole reason I'm doing that is so I can drive it. But that's me. Other people are doing it because they want to set a record. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It doesn't compete with me. Like I want to.
There's like a team member aspect. Like if your team wins, it feels good.
Yeah, sure, team.
If anybody's on sports, and so maybe that's how some of those owners get that. Maybe they truly are terrified of the vehicle or the contraption that their, counterparts help them build.
I don't think it's wrong. I guess I shouldn't say I can't understand it because you're right. That's very logical. And maybe like they're
like
getting
I see
older.
Dan Scheid crew chiefing. I mean, that's not the lead guy. He's up there crew chiefing his own rail with his name on it. But when he wins, I see the success. Team Scheid won, and he's excited to be part of the team, even though he's the owner there. But I don't ever see Dan Scheid piloting the rail, even though John Force is older than Dan Scheid, and he still pilots funny cars. So it's not like an age thing. I think it's just where you fit in on the team. And some people, I guess, they're just not drivers.
Yeah, you're right, and I don't fault him for that, but just me personally, what drives me, like say this whole premise of this conversation, what drives me is what Meyer said. I want to experience that ride.
Want feel gooder.
I want feel gooder.
You should make a shirt.
Oh, that's coming
I want to feel gooder.
Yes.
Ooh, that good.
Ooh, I feel real good. So anyway, I don't know. That's about the time we have for this one. We're an hour, but I mean. It's always fun to talk about like the things, how we got started in the diesel trucks and our builds in the past. And I hope you guys have thought about some of the builds you've done in the past or thinking of builds you're going to do. I really highly encourage it. And like I say, we really want people to experience this in a way that makes sense to them. Whether it's to our level, it doesn't have to be to our level. We recognize that we have a rare, we're in the industry, so we're pretty lucky that way.
You can feel gooder pulling your camper trailer faster than your buddy up the mountain.
That feels really gooder.
That feels gooder too.
Much gooder.
There's lots of ways to feel gooder. It
That's
doesn't
true.
have to be
Many-
drag strip. It could be
many
towing.
gooder.
It could be not breaking down on the way to work because you bulletproofed your Ford. It doesn't matter what it is, but find what makes you feel gooder and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please, share this, like, subscribe, help this channel grow. We appreciate all the positive feedback we get on this podcast. And as always, we are open for ideas. Send them our way. If it makes sense, we will talk about it. So anyway, thanks, guys. See you next time on the Power Driven Podcast.